Today's tutorial will be on contemporary development economics and under the broad heading of environment and development. Today we will discuss elaborately or in details the environmental Kuznets curve. So let us begin. Now, a little bit of backstory. Now in the year 1960s, Simon Kuznets, the man behind all these definitions and concepts, developed curves showing income inequality that changed as the per capita income of a country increased. Now, according to him, the income inequality, or he found out, so it is empirically proven, equality initially increased and then it actually decreased. A similar type of relationship is found between increases in per capita income and environmental quality. Now, with economic growth, the per capita income increases, but due to the negative externality problem, environmental quality deteriorates. Now the curve that shows how environmental quality or pollution actually changes with a country's per capita income is known as the environmental Kuznets curve, and throughout I'll be writing in an abbreviation, that is EKC. So let us describe. So an EKC describes the level of environmental quality in a country, and this is done as a function of per capita income. Now this is ample, or you can even say sufficient evidence to suggest that as income increases from very low levels, the environmental quality first deteriorates, but then as the country gradually prospers, so the word is gradually, prospers, it begins to improve. That means I'm talking about the environmental quality, and continues to improve and continues actually to improve as the income goes on increasing. So this is the very definition. So the environmental Kuznets curve, EKC, shows the relationship that is between the economy of a country and its physical environment. Now let us draw the curve so that it becomes very easy to understand. So on one axis I'll be measuring the per capita income, and on the other we will be measuring the environmental degradation. This is a very new concept that has been introduced because everyone is familiar with the Kuznets curve. No, very less people talk about this, and that is the reason we are discussing it here. And say the curve takes the shape something like this. So this is your environmental Kuznets curve, and let me do the marking using a different ink so that it becomes, and say this marks the turning point. Now when I have this curve has been drawn, and this curve is based on the assumption that a measure of environmental degradation depends on the level of per capita income as well as potentially all the other variables like population, density. Now, statistically, study shows that inequality increases with increase in income, and then eventually declines. So similarly, there is some evidence that environmental degradation initially increases with the rise in per capita income, but reaches its turning point, as it has been marked in the graph as yellow, and then declines, as you can see. Very well illustrated in the diagram. Now the resulting curve which you see is a inverted U that was made famous by the Simon Kuznets, and this was done in the year 1955. Okay, now I am not going into that detail. Now consequently, the income environment relationships have been captured by a curve which looks like inverted U and is known as EKC or environmental Kuznets curve, despite the fact that Kuznets has nothing to do with such curves. Now, 4 explanations have actually been put forward or have been offered as to why we get an inverted U relation, this inverted U relationship might exist. Now these include, number 1, composition of output. Number 2, technological progress. Number 3, we have rise in living standards. And lastly, we have number 4 is the transboundary externality. Now if I go on discussing each of these in details, it will make the tutorial very long and stretchy, which I don't want to do it. So I'll explain each of these topics individually. Okay, in our next tutorial it will be covered, and we will also be covering as to the determinant of the slope of the curve. Okay.